Hey, creative souls, writers, word witches. In this video, I will be talking about the writing habits and practices of Hakuri Murakami, Japanese writer and winner of many, many literary awards. A few of his titles are Norwegian Wood, Kafka on the Shore, After Dark, and his most recent from 2023, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. The Guardian once named him one of the greatest living novelists. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Johnny. I'm a retired adjunct writing professor. And these days I call myself a word witch. I've been helping people work magic on the page for over 20 years now. And I'm a practicing witch, which most definitely informs and influences my own practice and the way that I work with others. And that's to say that I am hyper intuitive and I'm able to see others' ideas and distill them down into manageable pieces, so that I can help them transform those ideas into short stories and novels. So my strength is in character development and character motivation. Your characters and their desires are what really drive your stories. So that's why that's become my focus. I want to thank you all for being here and for your likes, shares, and subscribes and comments, because all of it continues to help me grow my channel. And that's important to me because I believe I'm on this earth to heal the world through stories, whether it's the ones that I write and tell or the ones that I help you write and tell. I do believe stories heal, so let's do it together. All right, so on to Hakuri Murakami. I want to read to you a short excerpt from an interview that he did with the Paris Review in 2004. So first, let's be honest. Who knows if he is still following these practices, especially because it was 20 years ago. But I think it's worth looking at these, as I have other videos, because it gives us a sense of how very different writing practices can be from one writer to the next, and it can also show us similarities between each. I share these not to give you something to mimic, but so that you can see that tuning into what your practice needs, and this includes what your body needs, what your particular brain wiring needs. It's all very specific and subjective to each writer. So here's what Murakami said in that interview. When I'm in writing mode for a novel, I get up at 4 a.m. and work for 5 to 6 hours in the afternoon. I run for 10 kilometers, which is about 6 miles, or swim for 1,500 meters, which is about a mile, or do both. Then I read a bit and listen to some music. I go to bed at 9. I keep this routine every day without variation. The repetition itself becomes the important thing. It's a form of mesmerism. I mesmerize myself to reach a deeper state of mind. Okay, so before I talk about one facet of this quotation of his that I find the most interesting, I want to mention that getting up early, and especially at 4 a.m., is a common thread that I've seen between many writers. I talked about this in the Barbara Kingsolver video. She's talked about getting up at 4 a.m. and why she does that. And I also talked about this in I think it was the Toni Morrison video, when she talked about getting up before the sun rises and how it's the witnessing of the shift from night to day, from dark to light, that is the signal in her brain that it's time to write. Another common thread I see in writers' practices is physical movement, so moving the body. And many writers talk about the importance of having a walking practice, how that is essential to having a writing practice. And I want to take a minute to address something. I want to say that I'm aware that not everyone can walk. Not everyone has the physical ability to walk. And I think it is still important to maintain some sort of physical movement, depending on what your body is able to do. So if you have more access to movement in your upper body, do that. If you're able to move your lower body in any way, do that. It's the act of moving and not so much how you move, because moving your body moves energy. And as neuroscientist Candace Pert said, your body is your subconscious mind. And so we can't access the riches that live in our subconscious unless and until we move our bodies. And even if you are physically able, I don't think you need to run 5 to 6 miles a day or swim a mile every day to really effectively stoke and move that energy so that you can create. I am convinced that a simple mile or a half-mile walk can have the same effect. In fact, studies have been done around the correlation between ambulation and creativity, so there is something to it. Now, to the most fascinating part in Murakami's quote, as far as I'm concerned. He says, the repetition itself becomes the important thing. Yes, yes. Okay, here's why. The repetition that creates the mesmerism he speaks of comes from consistent, focused routine. This means sitting down to write at the same time on the same days, whether you can write every day or not. No matter the routine that you create, your brain will develop grooves of recognition. And in time, every time you sit down to write at that same time on those same days, your brain will more readily fall into writing mode. I think also the ritual that you perform before you sit down to write is just as important. So, do you make coffee or tea before you sit down? Do you grab a glass of water? Do you grab a snack? Do you turn on certain lights? Turn off certain lights? Do you light a candle? Do you maybe turn on a certain kind of music? Some people write listening to music. I cannot do that. Some people swear by it. Do you put on sound canceling headphones? All right, all those steps that you take to prepare to write are the first signals to your brain that it's time to write. So when your butt hits the chair, you can more readily access your subconscious and kick into writing mode. All right, so I talk about this and more in my Alchemy of Writing course, how to conjure and nurture your writing practice. And I created this course because I've learned from working with thousands of students over 20 years, I've noted that this is the deciding factor for many, having a solid writing practice. A solid foundation can really make or break your success as a writer. So I will just mention that you can get the course for $188 or you can get it for free when you join the Alchemy of Writing membership group. So you can learn more about both by checking in the description for links. And if you're not quite ready to take the plunge, you can also find a link in my description to my free first steps to conjure and nurture your writing practice. All right, so whenever you're ready, I am here, whatever you're ready for, I am here because I want you to write. I want you to share your meaningful stories and brilliant ideas with the world because honestly, we will all be better for it. All right? So as always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.